Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tara, and today we have a guest that you guys should be well aware of because she's been on our show a few times. We're just going to make her an honorary story darling. But we have Jessie again.
And she has on her cute crown.
Yeah. And she's got a lot of tiaras behind her too, which I'm digging. I might be a little distracted this whole time looking at tiaras.
Yes, and we are so excited to gather around and talk about our October book club pick, which was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole, book 1 in Kindred's Curse. I loved it.
Who recommended this book, Sandra?
I can't remember. I feel like it was several people though.
Okay, I am down reading a book those specific people have recommended because yes,
screw all you other people.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I trust their picks because this was a fan-freaking-tastic book. I did start off buying the audiobook because I didn't want to run into an issue that I have, which is like getting into the book. I liked the audiobook a lot.
Did you listen to the audio, Jessie?
I did not. So this book has been on my radar for several months now. One of my friends on Bookstagram, Christy, recommended it to me when I was like, I really just need a good romantasy, guys. Like, what should I read? And I got a bunch of suggestions, and she always has impeccable taste. But she told me to read this one, and she was like, the last book comes out July 31st. And I was like, sold. Finished series. I'm here for it. And then she messaged me a couple days later and was like, it got pushed back indefinitely, so maybe don't start it right away.
Like, okay, I hate when that happens.
And the last book still has not been announced for a published date. Author Penn Cole, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, whenever you want to let us know. But you guys said that you were going to read it for October, so I was like, all right, I will dive in head first. And I did. I devoured the first book in 24 hours, as I am known to do, and then I finished the rest of the series by 2 days later. So I know you guys only read the first book. Buckle up.
Oh, man.
Does it stay true to being really, really good, or does it fall off like some books do in later?
So it's so funny that you guys loved this book so much because this book was a 4-star read for me. Book 2 was like a 7-star read for me on a scale of 1 to 5. I can't hype it up enough. And we're going to get into it, but this book was like a prologue to the explosion that the rest of the series has been so far.
I did get that sense of being a prologue, kind of setting you up for big things happening.
Do we want to begin by talking about just what, not the first book, but just the series in general is about, non-spoilers, and then dive into what we think of all of the love story and all the different tropes and that kind of thing?
Go for it.
So the context of the book is millennia ago, 9 immortal siblings came to this world, this mortal world, after their own world was destroyed, and they each brought a grivern. Is that how you guys say it?
Yeah.
I was like, what are these creatures?
It's like a griffin or like with a wyvern, I think.
Yeah. And so they brought these creatures, 9 of them, and they settled the world, and they each fell in love with a mortal and bound themselves to them. Like, they gave up their immortality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the offspring of these pairings became the descended. So this world is interesting because you have this kind of settlement of their planet happening, but also you have this old religion of this Everflame. There's still this faction of people that believe in that. And so that kind of sets up the conflict of the world with that. And then you have enemies to lovers and a love triangle. I know. I'm like,
I mean, slightly. There was like 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, there was.
It's advertised as enemies to lovers. For me, it's more like he falls first and she fights it.
Oh, the girl rage in this book, I'm all about it too. She is so feisty.
But they're supposed to be enemies, right? Like,
yeah, because she's mortal and he's descended, so that's where I'm.
So they're supposed to be, even if they don't truly feel that way.
There's definitely some class Romeo and Juliet action going on.
And then kind of the context we get about the protagonist is her name is Diem Bellator, and her mother is orally, and she is a healer, specifically a royal healer. And one day she disappears during the Blood Sun. And then it's like a passage of 6 months. And it's the story of Diem, who's 20 years old, trying to pick up some responsibilities and become a healer herself so that her brother can stay in the Descended school and then eventually go to this prestigious Sophos University. And the mystery of figuring out what happened to her mom and just kind of these world conflicts bubbling up.
The names gave very mythological vibes because like Sophocles and Sophos and
Yes.
Diem even is a Latin word. The word for goddess is and god is very, very close to that. And so the whole time I'm listening to these names, I am thinking mythologically, ooh, are we giving something away? Are we giving something away with what we're naming people?
And something else with the naming of people that I think is interesting is I found out after I finished the books that Penn lives in France, and you can really see some of that French influence in the names of her characters. And I think it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really see it. I'm like touching the books.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited.
No, we were gushing about all of the different editions and stuff earlier before you hopped on, Jesse. And Tara, what was you said? Like you likened it to albums or?
Yeah, so I've noticed a trend in authors here lately. They're very much like Taylor Swift, where they put an extra chapter in this book, so you have to buy this one with this cover or whatever. And then to get the other chapter, which this was spurred on because Jesse let us know that in the hard covers, there's an extra chapter of a POV of a character that you don't get otherwise. It's like now I have to go buy a book just so I can get that chapter. And Taylor Swift does that a lot with her albums, just to get that one song.
Kudos to Rebecca Yarros in that, because she always, when she announces that she's doing a bonus chapter, like in the Fourth Wing Holiday Edition and in the paperback version, she put bonus chapters in those versions. But she also was really specific, like, you can find these on my website. You don't have to buy the books to read these chapters. And I thought that was a beautiful way to do it, because there are people like me who, it's like Pokemon and I got to catch them all. There's other people who are like, I just want one copy of this book, but I don't want to miss out. And I think that that's a great way to handle that. So I don't know if Penn is going to do the same thing.
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also a difference though, because like Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros are huge, right? And then you have Penn Cole, like this was originally indie, right?
Yes. I don't know when she got picked up, but she got picked up, and that's why we're getting delays in the last book. I don't know the ins and outs of traditional publishing, but I know that that's part of the delays, that she's switching over. She was really clear that she's going to publish the fourth book in the indie version so that people who've been with her the whole time can have a completed set of physical books before she does the traditional release. So I think that that's really nice.
Yeah, that
Even
is
though
nice.
that's going to mean, because I bought the traditionally published first one, it's going to take me extra long to get physical copies. She's also leaving them on Kindle Unlimited for people. So I think she's doing pretty good in her transition period.
Isn't that the same thing that happened with the Everking books, Tara? Like the fourth book was supposed to be released and it went traditional publisher and it got pushed back. So
apparently we're good at picking books, so we just need to continue picking books and get author sponsors or something, because
One day. The same thing happened for Raven Kennedy with the Plated Prisoner series. She just released Goldfinch, which is the last book in her series, but it got delayed a couple times because of the traditional publishing switchover. So
I saw those books at Barnes yesterday, and the pages are that golden kind of yellow color. I want
so
them
pretty,
so
aren't
bad.
They're very pretty books.
So easy.
So that's another series that is on our read list at some point when we get time here. But
yeah, Jesse, would you be open to talking about the next couple books with us as well in this series?
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Yes.
This was my least favorite book in this series, and I loved it.
Okay, we'll do a little Jesse mini series.
I've got grading to do this weekend, and I don't think I'm going to be getting much grading done because I'm going to be listening to this. It may be good, it may be bad for you. Depends on how much you piss me off.
I mean, if it helps, I could suggest that you guys just have Glow of the Everflame be your November book club pick. You just finish out the year with each month having one of these as your book club pick.
What we've been doing is we just pick a book and then we end up reading the whole series, and that just fills up our whole month is the series. So maybe like the series is October's read.
Squeeze it.
Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
test yourself.
I mean, I was very much like Jesse in this one. I finished it in like 5 hours over 2 different days. I listened to it at work while I was just like doing menial tasks.
Yeah, this was the first one especially was a very quick read. I did devour the second one in like 12 hours, but that's because it just consumed my soul. It's a little bit longer than this one, and then the third one I think is like way longer, but
Yeah.
though you want those extra pages in the next 2 books. So I'm excited for you guys to read them.
Well,
Okay.
speaking of all the excitement, do we want to dive into spoilers and talk about just whether it's characters or anything that happened, favorite scenes, what the fuck moments?
Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we do.
do a favorite scene, what the fuck moment. Like, I don't know what this is, but I got very Hunger Games vibes off of the like love triangle that we had going on, right?
Yeah.
Because okay, so Henry to me started out very much like Gale in Hunger Games, right? He's the boy next door, he's the friend, he's the one you want her to get with, right? He's cute, he's friendly.
Jesse's like, no.
And then he does something stupid as crap involving a bombing. Because that's what happens to Gale too. Like he bombs a place.
Spoiler alert.
Hey, we said spoilers. We said spoilers.
That's true. Not for the Hunger Games, but we.
Oh.
Okay, if you have not read or seen something in the Hunger Games at this point, like I'm sorry, but I don't know how you've managed to miss it. And then you kind of gravitate towards the person that you're not supposed to really be feeling her with, but you are, and so it feels awkward.
Well.
I did like Luther the whole time. I liked him a lot more than I liked
Yeah.
PETA, though, because PETA, I don't know, was just very dull to me, whereas Luther's not. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but like,
Oh, Luther?
Yeah.
not at all dull.
So I also got Gale vibes. One of my friends described Henry as Gale meets Dane Atom.
Oh no.
Oh.
Which I see it. Dane had a redemption for me in the second book. I know, I feel like that's really controversial to say, but I definitely saw Gale, which is funny because I was a huge Gale fan in all of the Hunger Games. I like loved him so much, and immediately I read her talking to him and I was like, immediately no. Immediately not my vibe at all. Like, and I don't know if it's because I was told this was an enemies to lovers book before I went in, so it's like I know he's not the guy for her, but he just wasn't it for, like, nothing he did worked for me in the whole book, start to finish. The thing about this book that was frustrating was that we only had 2.5 scenes of Luther in like the whole book.
That's why I gave it 4 stars.
Yeah,
but
same.
he made quite the impression in those 2.5 scenes.
Yes,
did he not?
Needed much more. You know what? I liked Henry at first because he was funny. He had kind of those little snarky quips and stuff, and then there was like the marriage kind of comment about you stay at home and rear children, and I was like, hell no.
Yes.
Look,
I can see the Dane vibes off of that because Dane was always putting down Violet, so I can see that, but otherwise I didn't see Dane in him at all. I saw Gale. There was wavering chemistry between them for me. There were some scenes where they had decent chemistry, and then there were other scenes that I'm like, do you even know each other?
Yeah. That's what it was for me, was it, because for me personally, like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a stay-at-home wife. That traditional dynamic between a man and a woman, you know, whatever, that Henry was looking for. And I was like, I'm here for it for you, bro, but she is clearly not it. Like, you guys have been best friends for 20 years, and You don't know that she has this deep-seated yearning for adventure that clearly doesn't match up with what you want. That really got to me.
Well,
Yeah.
and doesn't he even say the line, choose something for yourself, when he knows that she doesn't actually want to be a healer? And then he's trying to force her into what he wants her to be. Like, but
Mhm.
that's not the same thing.
Yeah. It's what he was really saying was choose something for me and not for your
Yes.
mom. Yeah.
Tara, did you get the vibe that Henry's gonna end up with Lana in this book? Lana was the other who ended up being a guardian, and she's like
Oh, the
a
healer.
apprentice healer chick, the blonde, doe-eyed girl.
I don't know. I didn't get any vibes off of Lana. I feel like we're gonna find out more about Lana later, but
Mm.
I didn't get.
What is
Jesse's face is telling us, but yeah,
Oh, I love it.
That's such an interesting theory, Sandra. Thank you for
Well,
maybe
no,
spoiler alerts for another book too, guys.
no, there was that first Guardian meeting that Diem goes to, and Lana
Mhm.
like runs up to Henry all
Oh, okay, yeah.
excited and da da da. And
And
I
then,
just feel like he's looking for that girl that's like all into the Guardians and just like that's his
has
perfect
drank the
woman.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
wants somebody who's drank the Kool-Aid.
And sorry, that's not Diem.
No, she's her own person.
Mm-hmm.
But how cute are Lily and Teller?
Dude.
I love them so much.
Yeah.
Those
Lily was my
are the ones that
favorite.
I hope find a way to be together.
Lily was my favorite across the board immediately upon meeting her. Like, this is my girl. I'm here for it. And I think that was part of the reason why I didn't like Henry right away, is Teller didn't like Henry. And like the first time she talks to Teller about Henry, he's kind of like,
Yeah.
whatever you want. But like,
Wasn't that funny?
I was like, I'm with you, Teller. Let's get it.
I do like her and her brother's relationship though too.
Yeah.
Because they're like jabbing of each other over the dinner table about, like her with him with Lily. And then him with, oh, Henry asked something.
Yeah.
And she's like, I deserved that. I deserved that.
Meanwhile, the dad is just sitting there totally oblivious.
He's like, you should invite your friend to dinner if you like.
But, okay, so he was oblivious in that sense, but I don't think he's as oblivious as he is acting. Especially what we find out at the end of the book, that I think he knew where the mom was the entire time.
Yes.
And he was acting oblivious.
And Henry.
Yeah. But
you think Henry
he's not...
knew where she was too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I feel like she's there on guardian business. And I think that that's the reason that they wouldn't let her in, is because mom vetoed her being a part of the Guardians.
I flip-flopped between Orly being an American army spy and then being very high up in the Guardians.
Yeah. And I think Orly knows exactly what Diem is, how powerful she is, which is why she was giving her the potion or whatever that only the king can sign off on. I think the king wanted her not powerful as well, because that scene where she goes and sees the king, he's like, oh, you finally came. Like like basically you finally quit taking the thing that I've been sending to you. And that's how Orly was getting the potion that's so rare.
Is this the scene where he calls her Devourer of Crowns, Ravager of Realms, Herald of Vengeance, Daughter of the Forgotten?
Yeah, the
On
breaker
and
of the
on.
chains.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones name.
Uh-huh. So where do you think Orly was? I mean, Jessie knows, and she's hiding behind her book.
So I think she was where she got pregnant with.
When you look at the map of Amerion, there's the Kindred's temple in the middle. I mean, the whole map, it looks like an eyeball that's like wide open. I feel like that's where she was. I don't know why she had to go there during the Blood Sun or whatever. I know that Diem was born during a Blood Sun 20 years ago, but I want to know more about this entity at the very end.
I wonder if there's like a certain amount of time Like, it's kind of like a you turn 16, you get a car kind of thing. Like, she turns
Sweet
21,
16.
she gets a, like, or she turns 20, she gets
She
a,
gets a crown.
yeah, like, she gets her powers. And that's
Uh,
why she left during the thing. So this is going to make it sound really weird because I really do ship her with Luther. But there was a mention of a brother of the king, right? Not Luther's dad, but a different brother that, or somebody that disappeared, right? That was powerful, or maybe I'm making this up. But either way, is that her dad? The person who was super powerful that disappeared?
Jesse?
Jesse, you wanna fill us in?
So it's just funny. I did do reaction posts on my Instagram while reading this book specifically. And I was definitely keyed in. Something I found really refreshing about this book was that she wasn't like, my dad's not my dad. Like, she knew. And I think that that's like I really appreciated that about this particular story. There was no like everything I've ever known is wrong moment at the beginning, but it did send me on a quest, just like with Hunt in
Like, who are you?
yeah, in Crescent City. I was like, who's his dad? Who's her dad? So when they started talking about the king, I was like, is the king her dad? And then they revealed that the king was the prince's uncle, and I was like, nope, I don't want a Cassandra Clare City of Bones situation going on here, so we're not going down that road.
That's what I was hoping the whole time. I'm like, not hoping that they would be cousins, but hoping against that, like that we weren't going to find out later on that they're cousins, and now like we've just had this incestuous thing that we have to wrap our heads around.
Yeah, but also mentioned in the book was the king of Fortos, which is a neighboring kingdom. There's 9 kingdoms total. And during this book, I was theorizing that she was one of their children.
Okay, maybe that's the one that like I was thinking somebody disappeared. Or so there's also the queen of something.
The queen of Umbros.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the other 9
very
monarchs.
Powerful. Yeah, so she was also very powerful. But we already have a mom, so maybe like they don't have, I don't know. I was just trying to find a powerful dude because I'm like, she's powerful, has to have a dad who's also powerful.
Yeah. Sandra brought up the king calling her a bunch of titles and when he was like breathing his last breath, basically. But we're skipping over at the beginning of the book. She sees her mom arguing with a descendant, who we later find out is Luther. But that's the half scene, by the way. See what a half scene that he's in. That was the half scene. But she speaks to an old crone woman, and the old crone woman gives her a prophecy. Do you guys remember that?
I remember that there was a prophecy. I don't remember what the prophecy said.
When the forgotten blood on Hearthstone falls, then shall the chains be broke. Life for life old debt requires, or eternal be his yoke.
So she's the forgotten, so her blood has to fall on the
king calls her daughter of the forgotten.
But she would have the blood of the forgotten if she's the daughter of the forgotten.
I mean, maybe. I'm not giving you guys any information about the second book. I'm going basically off of what I thought and felt during this one.
Okay, so
trying to mislead us.
I'm gonna go back to your comment about her dad, right? Because she knew the whole time that he wasn't her dad.
Yeah.
And he loved her like his daughter, and he even has this very, very touching moment where he tells her that she was part of the reason that he fell for her mom, because she showed up with the little baby, and he finally decided that he didn't want to live without them. And then bitch had his last scene where he went off the rails and tried to force her to marry Henry and to like stop being her own person.
And
it
she
just
says,
ruined
"You're
it
not
for
my
me.
dad."
Yeah, well, I mean, he kind of deserved that.
That felt like a real family argument, though.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many iterations of that kind of table conversation has blown up at my household growing up, but it felt so real. Like, I know it was a bad scene for Diem, not being valued as her own person. Yeah.
Too.
But, like, I really liked how the family dynamic changed there.
Well, and it shows that, like, when you're a part of a family, you end up being messy and like saying things to them that hurt them, because both sides did that.
Yeah.
To be like in a way that you wouldn't naturally do to someone you're not in a familial relationship with. So it was really well done. It didn't lower my estimation personally of anybody in that family because it felt so real. And like you could see the love they all have for each other even as they're like fighting.
Yeah.
So
It felt like an imperfect, like in Crescent City with Bryce's mom and kind of stepdad. It felt like an imperfect version of that, which I liked.
I don't know. Like,
Kara's
it-
like, nah,
I
screw
mean,
it.
I do agree. I think he will come back. It was very much that patriarchal society that Henry started, like leading us into. The dad felt like he got to decide when and who she married. I did not like that. The other option's Luther.
In his defense, I think it came from a state of panic on his end.
Yeah,
because
that's
he
why.
definitely wasn't pushing for her to marry Henry until that moment. I think
Yeah.
he even when Teller, I'm trying to remember because
Teller brought it up and he was joking about it and told her, you know, basically you get to make the decision. And so
Yeah.
that's where I'm saying, like, I'm leaving it with a grain of salt that that's really him and not this panicked mode.
yeah.
But if he continues to act like this, I'm not going to like him very much.
Dead to Tara.
That's
Yes.
that's
He'll be
your
Kale
prerogative,
again.
Tara.
Yeah.
I will
Fair.
be curious to hear your thoughts about book 2.
Okay.
I'm always curious to hear your thoughts, but in that regard, especially, we're gonna just flag that for later.
Okay.
Did you get weird vibes about this Vance character in the Guardians?
Yes.
I'm like, what is so important about him?
Jesse
this father
also got
figure.
weird vibes. Maybe. Okay. So.
Maybe I should leave.
So, do we know what color eyes Vance has?
It is oddly said nothing about it, right?
Okay. So, is Vance maybe the father?
It
Like maybe
kind of...
we're literal with the
Jesse, are we right?
with the name here? But I wouldn't see why. I mean, okay. I preface this because I think Vance has like a bigger thing, but I also think Luther has something to do with the Guardians. I get vibes that Luther knows. We know he knows about the Guardians, but I think he knows more about the Guardians, especially with his comments about, I would have helped her. I would have made sure that people were safe. I would have done these things. She should have told me. I think that that's maybe the secret she is keeping for him, or part of the secrets she is keeping for him, is that he is actively going against his own race or whatever.
Yeah.
To make sure all people are safe.
Is it a possibility that it was actually Luther who was clearing the flame route as well? Like on behalf of King Ulthar?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I do think we have some descended in the Guardians that we may not know yet.
What? Ooh, I hadn't thought of that.
Like, I think that there's some race, species, whatever you want to call the descended. I don't know what they actually are, but
sympathizers, like of
that
mortal
sympathize more with the mortals, and not just for, as we've seen, sex and the fun parts of being with a mortal, because they kill their babies when that happens. That's no fun.
That scene was horrible that Diem watched. That's not how I wanted that scene to play out at all.
No, I wanted the little baby to survive.
I know, that made me sad. It's like, okay, thanks a lot, Penn Cole. Really took us there.
But we had to have something like that to drive her to make the changes that she needed to make. We have her little voice driving her, but I don't think that voice was doing enough at that time. I think she needed to see the true horrors that were going on.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about that driving Diem to join the Guardians?
I hated that.
I immediately was like, you're making a mistake.
Yeah, I
Don't
did
join
too.
them. But I didn't know if that was just a me thing.
No, I was with you. I knew that was going to end bad because I knew that they were more culty than she assumed they would be, right? They were more like, you have to be what is the word I'm looking for? Like the fanatical
Oh, yeah.
person
Which
in this, which she's not. She just wants to help people, right? She's
it,
not fanatical where she's willing to kill the other side just for existing.
in Henry's defense, can we joke about the part where he was making fun of it too, when he was like, "Oh, it's gonna happen after the blood rite when you have to do this, this, and this," and she's like, "Oh hell no, I'm getting the hell out of here." That was
Okay.
funny.
That
He
was
was like,
funny.
I'm messing with you. But I also was sitting there like, either he's messing with her or we're gonna kill some people.
But
So
it's that sense of humor though that got me too.
Yeah.
So I totally thought he was being truthful in that. But I'll give you a reason why, because I was still thinking Luther was a part of this, right? And her mom's comments about I know your secrets. Well, the right that he was talking about is you have to share all of your secrets. And I was like, "Oh, that's how she knows Luther's secrets is
Mhm.
this is real and he shared them to be a part of this, and now she knows and she can use those." And so I was going down a rabbit hole of how did her mom know Luther's secrets? And so it felt very real to me, and then it was a joke and I was like, "Oh, but now I still need to know how her mom knows his secrets."
Yeah. Curious.
But I also, with that, I'm like, well, maybe the secret is that he is Diem's dad. And then I was like, no, please no, because I like them together. That was before they had any
Tara's
chemistry.
brain just
That was before, like, you saw them together, and it was just her mom and him, and she's telling them, I know your secret. And I'm like, oh, is he her dad?
who's my daddy?
So
Are
I
you
was
my
trying to
dad?
look for answers in every scene, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's not her dad, hopefully. Hopefully. Please, Jesse, give me a spoiler that he is not her dad.
I will confirm he is not her father. Luther
Okay, thank
is
you.
not the father.
Okay.
Good.
Maury
We're
Povich,
good.
you should have been like, and the results are in. Luther is, you are not the father. I just
If
really
he
don't want
is-
an incestuous love thing that I really get invested in, and then I
Look,
can't anymore.
if in book 4, Pencole's like, surprise!
Hard
I will be
turn.
thrown.
Hard pass on that, Pencole. Hard pass. I cannot get invested for 3 books and a couple, and then you tell me that, oh, by the way.
No. It's not. That's not.
Do we find out her father?
Maybe.
Maybe? Okay.
It's a possibility or two.
Is it like Mamma Mia, where it could be 4 different people, we just don't know?
I don't know.
Like, she doesn't really know?
Tara,
Like, mom had a hoe
calm
face?
down. You're gonna get there. Just listen for about 3 hours, double and a half speed.
What are words? I don't know. What do we think about the Diem proving herself with that spy mission she goes on in that house of the Descended, where she talks to the little boy and the little girl and steals the armory information?
Hated Henry in that scene, because I knew he had a part in making that kid sick, and I hated him for that.
That pissed me off, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my beginning of Henry is dead to me.
But
I hold
also,
a grudge. I hold a grudge.
But
so
not
much
just about Henry, though, because she gets to see, like, into the everyday lives of the Descended.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I really appreciated about Pencole. This whole book is like a setup book, which is very common in fantasy. Like, The Way of Kings was a huge setup book for Stormlight Archive. Guild is a huge setup book for Plated Prisoners. This book was like a lot of setup, which I'm not complaining about, really, because it was still interesting enough that I read it in a day. But
I hated the dad in that scene too.
Yeah.
It's very much you listen to me, you're important, nobody else is important.
Right. But we get to see into Descended culture, and this is where we really get to, Diem really gets to see that, like, they're people too. She hasn't had any experience with them. She sees them as monsters, just like, I mean, and the scene with the child, and where she tries to rescue the child, and the descendant kills the woman and the kid and like leaves, does paint them as monsters. And, you know, because they're different species of people, basically, like you get a lot of that. And so the scene with her and the little kids was really important to me, because that's where she starts to be like, I don't think they all deserve to die, whereas Henry's like, nah, let's kill them all.
But I think she had some of that empathy for them. I mean, maybe not knowing their daily life and that they had struggles too, but she's been a healer for some of them, right? So
No.
Yeah.
But her mom wouldn't let her go near the descended. So up
That's
until
right.
she starts going to the palace,
Okay.
she hasn't had any interaction with them in any capacity.
Okay,
Other
because I
than
thought she
them,
had healed some of them, like
mm-mm,
outside of the palace area.
I don't believe so. So this is like her first real experience with them.
She had a lot of empathy for the people that she healed. And so I got the sense that she was never like Henry. Like she never wanted them all to die. Like
Yeah.
I think she had some empathy for people as people, no matter their kind of species. But I do think she got to see a little bit more of their home life, in the sense that it's pretty much the same as mine. And in this one particular instance, I think she felt better about her home life because she had a mom that loved her. She had a dad that loved her. She had a brother that loved her. Whereas this family didn't. The dad didn't give a shit about his kids. The mom was off who knows where when her child was sick. And the little brother was trying to be the man of the house, right? Trying to live up to his father's expectations of him. And so you just didn't feel a lot of love. And so I think
Mm-mm.
she went even further into that empathy of, they may have it worse than I do in some aspects, depending on who they are.
She didn't see a lot of love between parent and child, but you did get to see love between brother and sister in that scene. And you got to see how the father was basically trying to train that out of his son.
Yes.
And she was seeing where the cycle started, like the chain of abuse that just continued to perpetuate within this society that she doesn't know too much about.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because
and I think she definitely was starting to realize, like, because in her healing, she's gone to other people's homes, other mortals' homes. So I think she did get to see, like, they're just like us in a lot of ways.
And you see at the end of that scene, the brother chooses what the dad is teaching him over staying with his sister. And so you saw that love between them, but you also saw it kind of end. Like, this is a spot.
Well, you see it dying,
chooses.
for sure.
Yeah.
Sandra, you look so sad.
No, it's like DMC's, for the mortals that she serves, they're starving, right? They're sick, they're starving. And then on the flip side, for the descendant, they're starving for love and care and that connection between the family members. So it's like a very different kind of sickness in a way.
That humanity, might we say?
Yeah. And are we,
they might
speaking
need
of that scene,
each other.
They do need each other. But speaking of that scene where the father killed the mom and the little boy, I
don't want to
feel
speak
like
of that scene anymore.
but I feel like that face off between him and Diem, I'm like, are we gonna see him again? Because that was pretty intense. And if I was stabbed a couple, look at Jesse hiding.
Jess, you're just giving it away when you cover your face that we are, in fact, going to see him again. Is he the dad? Is he the dad? We need another Maury moment.
Oh my god.
I won't say that one at all.
Oh.
She doesn't kiss that guy, so I don't need to assure you that she's not his daughter.
They remain enemies, is what you're saying?
I don't know.
They're not the enemies to lovers portion?
I don't know.
Just straight enemies through and through.
Okay, so now we can jump to the forest scene when you hear the bomb explode in the armory in the descended town, and she immediately feels racked with guilt, and she's like, I need to go and help. And she's stopped by Henry and Vance.
The fuckers.
And Co. And this scene is where I was like, I know that I'm right in not liking Henry, because it felt really dark. You've got like 6 burly, strong men being like, we will take you by force if we need to, little girl, is the vibe. I understand that, like, that's not probably how they intended it, but they were.
I think
you're
it
right.
was. I think it was because at least 2 of those have already made suggestive, rapey comments to her.
They tried to play it off as joking, but it's totally rapey. And even leading up to that, though, Jessie, even when she passed her audition, right? So much of what happened was pure luck. Them leaving the room, her stumbling upon the papers and not getting caught. That didn't require any skill, but it was almost like the Guardians were grooming her, like, oh, you did such a great job, a phenomenal job, blah, 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 just getting her to buy into this group.
No, I agree. That was my cementing of my hatred for Henry. That he let something like that, like, not that he had control, but that he was still a part of an organization that didn't care who they were killing as long as they were killing people. I hated that.
I can't remember. Did Henry's dad have the same hatred for them, or was he just kind of...
Henry's dad works for them.
He's the royal courier.
Yeah,
proximity.
He, like, delivers messages for them and stuff.
I did like that, and this is a scene later, when she stayed at the castle or the palace, and Luther sent a note, and he sent it via Henry's dad.
Not awkward at all.
And it's like, oh, okay. I did like that, like, just a little jab at Henry for his being a jackass to her, which she didn't have any control in, but I did like Penn Cole, like, I don't know.
Grinding it in.
Yeah, we'll get there. But from the forest scene, we go into the fire scene. And in the fire scene, we get our next, well, no, I guess we've had scenes with Luther between the beginning and the end that we've kind of just glossed over because he was there when she saved Lily and when she went to go and care for the king and stuff. But this is
the twins, or the little boys, when she went back to check on him.
Yes, yes. But this scene we get where he tries to ignore her and she calls him a jackass.
So she just starts shouting at him.
Yeah.
I love that everybody around her is like, oh shit, she's gonna die. Oh shit, she's gonna die. Because she keeps just yelling at him inappropriate things /
she's like, hey, motherfucker! Yes. Basically is what she's doing.
I know you hear me!
And then he just, like, turns, walks to her. Like, yes?
And that has happened throughout the book, right? Because even with the guards, like, even though they are the ones who cut her and he punished them for that, she's like, but do you think that was right? And everybody's like, are you questioning our prince?
How dare you?
And she's like, yes, I am. Like, sit down, you're not in charge, kind of a thing. So I do like that he allows her that strength.
Yeah.
You know, because in everything else, he is very much in charge. But it's coming up. So fire scene, and then I have something to say about the scene right after the fire.
Yeah, well, we're going to get there. But then he lets her through, and she starts taking care of Descended. And she's like, I can't. She had to leave her bag of healing supplies behind because Henry attacked her. Henry and his friends assaulted her, I'm going to say it. So she had to leave her supplies behind. So she doesn't have anything to really, like, heal them. But she sits with them, and she, like, alleviates their fears. And she uses, like, psychology medicine to help these people. And then she hears Luther talking to a couple other people who I don't believe we get names for, but they're, like, clearly, like, friends. And they're like, there's still people inside, but we're too big to, like, fit through the hole to get to them. And Diem's like, I'll do it.
I'm small.
and Luther's like, absolutely not. And they're like, no, she's got a point. Like, she can probably do it. So she goes into the fire, and at one point she gives up and accepts death, and death does not accept her back.
Okay, so I took that as a different form of giving up. Like, I don't think she gave up on the people in there. I think she let the fact that she was a part of this, because it was right after she found, like, that they had slit the throats of some of the people in there. And I think she felt worthy of death, right? I don't think she gave up in the sense of, I give up on life. I think she felt she deserved to die.
Yeah.
Because of what she allowed to happen, or what she was a part in. But then she woke up because death did not accept her, and she found people. And
Yes.
so she used her extraordinary strength that you get from adrenaline, it sounded like, to drag them out.
Adrenaline or something.
Yeah.
And
Well, the story she gave was like the moms who can lift the car or whatever, and that is adrenaline kicking in. So
the carriage.
Yeah. I liked that she fantasy made that statement. Like, she turned that statement that we all hear in our everyday life into a fantasy statement. It was cool. There was one part in that scene, she tells the conscious dude that she's going to put him on the unconscious dude and use the unconscious dude as a stretcher. And I was like, I don't know that my EMT friends would suggest that. I feel like that's not how that would. I don't know that that's a good idea, but okay.
I was like, the guy is crushed from his pelvis down. I'm like, is this good?
Well,
I know the other guy's passed out, but
so
yeah. Clearly, she made the right call.
It just shows how desperate she was, right? Because if any one of us was the cause of this sequence of events, we would be freaking panicking and feel so overwhelmed by guilt too, right? And just be willing to run into the fires. Yeah. Also, though, the vision that happened, like every time that vision appeared, I would get chills because it just felt like that very epic scale type of fantasy moment.
And then when Luther mentions it too, like, I'm just envisioning him because he mentions that he saw it too, right? Outside the fire, and he just goes like glass-eyed and like standing there having this vision.
No, he like steps into the burning building to get her, and they like their eyes like meet. So I don't know that other people outside can see him when that happens, but they definitely have this moment where they like have this connection, and you're like,
are they other mates?
Well, and then okay, so that is what I was going to get at the next scene, because he's talking to his cousin, and he's like, I think she's my and then it's what? And I'm like, your mate, your parabatai, like, what word are we using for it? Okay, because we all know what it is, but what word are we using in this book?
Yeah. No,
sorry, with the Cassandra Clare thing, it brought the parabatai back into my mind.
No, fated mates definitely felt real, and I think have they talked about mates at all in okay,
not this,
so we don't know if mates are a thing or not, but there definitely seems to be some sort of connection there,
this attraction of power.
She collapses, and he carries her himself to the castle and asks a girl named Eleanor to take care of her, and Eleanor calls him cousin and is like, what is she to you? And we don't get to find out what she is to him, but she wakes up in a bed holding his hand and
in his shirt.
Right. And his pants for sure, because Eleanor was like, I'll find some dresses, and he was like, no, she wears pants. This is like a goofy thing for me to swoon over, but like he knows what she likes.
Her. He knows her more than Henry does.
But it's not his pants. It was
just a guard
uniform,
like a
guard uniform,
guard pants, but his shirt, like a huge.
Okay. Yeah.
And then she gets to go home, and Henry's like, "What the fuck?"
And he's like, "Hey, check on the king real quick first."
And that's where the king.
That's where we get
the curse breaker, and it's not really the curse breaker, but
he says something like, "Tell my heir something," but she doesn't tell him.
But she's his heir.
That's true.
Like, because that shit happens where she is sitting there, and all of a sudden she starts getting really, really warm, and we find out that the king had died, and she ends up with a crown on her head.
And the way Saray, the Grivern, was acting around her
you
the
knew
whole
she was
time.
something right from the beginning of that Grivern being the first time she went to the palace, and that not Griffin. Gryvern
being
was
curious.
Acting. It knew.
I love that it's a girl.
But so then he mentioned that it's acting up because it might not agree with what the new owner says, or
because
its values.
they revealed that the Wyverns have a oath bond type thing with the current king or queen of their specified region.
Yeah.
And so they are magically bound to do whatever that person says, whether they agree with them or not.
What I was getting at there is I'm wondering what the Wyvern, what kind of personality it has outside of the king, right? Because right now we only know what it does because of the king, and it's acting up because it has to do what the new person says. So are they gonna gel? Are they gonna be like a Violet and Taryn, where they're completely different personalities but have to be together? Or are they gonna be like Violet and Darna, where you feel like they have more of a soul connection?
I also wonder
I'm
that.
leaning that way. I'm
leaning that way too, but
Saray
I'm just
struck me as very feisty and fiery.
So
That's
I'm
our girl.
hoping that they get along swimmingly or flyingly, and
All of the above.
we get a badass power couple.
That would be cute.
Jess, thank you for your input on that.
I don't know.
I have no clue.
I'm worried because in the lore that we're given, 9 Grivern came, 2 were killed, so we know they can be killed. And I'm just, with this escalating conflict between the Guardians of the Everflame and the Descended.
I think it would take a lot to kill them, though. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're not like fragile little birds.
No. Right, Jesse?
I don't know.
But which kingdoms don't have a Gryvern?
I can't remember if it listed like which 2 realms had theirs killed.
And what happens? Like, are they just not as strong? Like, I feel like there's some lore behind having a Gryvern, so there has to be something that they lose because their Gryvern dies. I mean, obviously it's not Fourth Wing level.
No, I think they were
dies.
I think they were just killed during the first Blood War, and I feel like that's what we're building up toward, is like a second.
I feel like they're important to something. I mean, like I was saying, like not as important as Fourth Wing's dragons, like where the rider dies if the wyvern dies, but or the dragon dies. I feel like there has to be some power diminishing because your wyvern died.
Maybe.
Do we? I was gonna ask Jesse a question that's just like, hey, tell me some spoilers. But the Grivern, however you want to say it, they came from this other planet that was taken over and destroyed, that the Kindred came from. I wonder if we'll learn anything more about that, if that will have any little consequences that trickle down to this place.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just okay.
Maybe there's some others that are still like, I don't know, like Superman and Autobots, Transformers. Maybe there's some other like people that are alive from the other planet that come and like don't like them very much. I don't know.
I want to know more
I'm
about
going
this.
way too far, I think, but
anything is possible.
I feel like Orly was at the Kindred's temple at the end, and I want to know if the Kindred is actually dead or not, because if they are alive, it's very possible
that's her dad.
that other conflict.
Maybe her dad is actually a Kindred who is still alive. She's
That's
a
what
Michelson.
I'm thinking.
She's a Hope Michelson. Oh, you don't know that reference. Sorry, Sandra.
I don't know that reference.
From the original.
I know the Michelsons now. I'm that far.
Oh, you know Klaus? Do you know
I know Klaus and Rebecca and Elijah.
Hello, darling.
Now we're switching to Vampire Diaries.
Okay, sorry.
Specifically the TV show, because the books are way different.
Yeah.
Are they way different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to read them. No. Okay.
Klaus is a completely different character.
He is cute in the show.
I don't know that I could read a Klaus that's way different and be invested in him at all.
Well, you don't need to be. We can't talk about it. I can't talk about it.
Okay. Thanks.
Does it hurt your heart? Is that why we can't talk about it?
Or she doesn't want to spoil it for me.
Yeah. Something. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
I get heated. Yeah. So back to
the topic. We are bad at like venturing
No, we're
Yeah, we
good.
are.
I just can't talk about Vampire Diaries without getting heated. So,
Strong feelings.
justice for L.J. Smith. That's all I can say. It reminds me, because I've read a couple books since I read this one, is the scene where she is leaving after seeing the king. That's when she tells Luther that she quit. She's going to quit the healers and that she'll probably never see him again. And he's like, you are totally allowed to kill me if you want to. Okay, we have to talk about the fact that scene kind of felt like it came out of left field, but I was not upset.
I don't know. It didn't come out of left field for me, like, because
There's been so much tension and buildup.
Yeah.
Even the pat down.
I knew where she was coming from, and I also had an inkling when he stopped talking or when we stopped hearing him what his words were after I think she's my, and so
Interesting.
I think that in my head it was a clear continuation of him acknowledging that if she's not a part of his life, he might as well not be alive, kind of a thing.
That's
and
interesting.
And
I
that,
didn't pick
like,
up on
if that's what it took to convince her that he wasn't a horrible person, she could do that. Because if she believes him to be a horrible person and doesn't want to have anything to do with him, like, he's like, you've just gutted me anyway.
So I want to put a pin in the she's my statement and discuss it with both of you
after we find out what she is.
After you read the next book, because I'm gonna say this. I personally don't think he was gonna say what you think he was going to say.
Ooh.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Well, in my head, he was. Okay. It's still there.
Yeah, anyway, like, there's never a situation where she's like, what were you saying while I was passed out? So, like, he could have said a couple of things, is all I'm going to say on that.
Was he about to say, I think she's my daughter?
No. Oh, jeez. Here we
Does
go
he
again.
think she's his daughter?
Not the father, Sarah.
This is weird.
That was a joke. I know. I was just joking.
I think you need to read some different books.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know what you've been reading lately, but maybe try something else.
Oh.
I'm dying. Oh, we love you.
I'm trying to remember how this one ends, too. What books have you been reading now? No.
I've been reading a lot of Brandon Sanderson, and there's no incest in that either.
Okay, so I did have, like, a Game of Thrones comment earlier too, where there is definitely incest.
There's some Daenerys vibes going on with.
Yeah, you had the cousins of Luther wanting to,
to get with him. So it's not without incest in this book, or incestuous thoughts.
But there's not between Diem and Luther.
Okay, not okay. We got a not related.
He never says, "I think she's my daughter."
So
you were asking about the end.
So she goes home. Henry's like, "What the fuck?" Her dad loses his ever-loving mind on both her and Teller because he figures out who Lily is finally. And then she leaves, and she'd had a conversation with Mara too, right, about not being a healer anymore.
Yes, she does quit the healers, and Mara's like relieved.
And then she leaves, and then we have like the kind of prologue of Orally.
Yes.
Well, it's like same parallel time.
Here's the thing: is she goes out to the clearing, and
she basically catches fire.
Teller's like, "What the hell?" Because he follows her, and then he's like, "Bro, you've got a crown on your head."
He's like, "Bro, what just happened?" And then they figure out that the king died and that she's the new heir. We did not get a reaction from Luther because he even hinted that he's not sure that he is the heir and that she is powerful.
Yes.
And he's like, "I'm not sure I'm the most powerful." And then he even like said to her, "Do you honestly not know?"
Yeah.
So I think Luther may have known previously that she was actually the heir.
Do you think Henry really believes that she's not mortal?
I think Henry's dumb, and dumb enough to believe that, yes. But I don't know. He's also very manipulative, I think.
Oh, the final straw.
I don't know. I don't know that he is not being manipulative and pretending that he's dumb.
Exactly. The last conversation that she had with him, whenever his first thought was, whose clothes are you wearing? Instead of, are you okay after going to the explosion that we caused at the armory?
And after I assaulted you?
Yeah.
And you're just showing up like, you're lucky to be alive and I didn't jab this fucking knife in your throat because you assaulted me and blew people up. And then he just shows up like he didn't do anything.
She was going over to his house and like hesitating at his door to tell him that she didn't want to accept his marriage proposal, right?
Like, I would have thought that would have been obvious when he assaulted her.
Well, he's very delusional.
But she hasn't given him an answer. She doesn't even give him an answer when she goes over to his house.
I feel like I would assume that my answer is said, or like you can figure it out when you try and assault me.
How many men have you talked to and like done the same exact thing and they can't take a fucking hint?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, to me, I'd be like, I'm just gonna ghost your ass because you just assaulted me.
Have you seen Walt Disney's Hercules? You know, men, they think no means yes and get lost means
Tara
take
loves
me, I'm
that.
yours. I know. We talked about it with Nexian, but yeah.
I love that. I love that you just quoted that movie.
I got you. So their relationship status is up in the air at the end of this book.
Yeah. And Orly's status is up in the air because we thought she was dead / alive / whatever. And we find out that she is in fact alive.
And in 30 days, she gets to go home.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, what is this 30-day waiting period?
That's what I want to know. Like, why is there all this
And there goes the book over Jess's face. Again.
Tell me she's not pregnant again.
She went on her hoe phase again and got pregnant. Because she was with the dad at that point in time, right? Like she was dating him before she left, and then she comes back pregnant.
She was not with him when she got pregnant with Diem. I can confirm that for you.
Okay, because he mentioned like they were like.
He was in love with her, but hadn't approached her.
Okay.
And then when he finally got up the courage to say something to her, they were together for a few months, and then she told him she had a secret. And
I feel very
she got a kid.
A little bit better about that then, because I thought that they were like in the beginning stages of their relationship, and then she left for like a year and then came back pregnant.
No,
that makes me feel better about her.
If I recall correctly, he was like, I noticed her immediately and wanted to say something, but it took me a hot second to get up the courage to say something.
Okay. I feel better about that.
If I'm wrong, correct me. Send me a message.
I feel better about that, so I'm gonna side with Jessie so that I can feel better about their relationship.
I mean, Jessie already knows what's going to happen. So what is your theory for what's going on in general, Tara?
So again, I think Luther and
her eyeballs just peeping over the book.
Diem are some form of like fated mates, true mates, some form of like destined to be together people, right? Obviously, she's more powerful than she's ever been let on that she is. And should have picked up on some of that because there's a whole bunch of I don't know why I'm so strong. I don't know why I heal. I don't know why this knife isn't puncturing me. And it's like, bitch, you are powerful. Like, I don't know how many more clues you need here, which I think is what Luther was saying. Like, honestly, have you not caught on? I think Orly either is one of the kindred and she's been hiding it, or she got with one of the kindred, or a very powerful descendant, and that is the father. I hope the Guardians are wiped out. After, like, there's going to be a war of some sort, right? Like, the Guardians aren't just going to give up because they're...
Yeah, I mean, the dad's getting called out.
They're fanatical, right? Hopefully she gets to move into the palace and, like, boss around some people who were bitches to her, because I really want that for her. Be like, now I'm the king. Leave my presence.
In my head, was there a 10th kindred that was just all powerful and refused to give up their immortality, and they were kind of bad news, and they were the ones that kind of led to the destruction of their own world? Or did one of the 9 not give up their immortality, is what I'm wondering about. But I do agree that I think that Diem is like the descendant of that directly. And I feel like, I don't know, the conflict with the mom is weird because it makes it feel like she's high up in this Guardians trying to protect the world from this kindred from coming back or something again.
Yeah, because I don't remember who it was that disappeared. Like, there was a very brief mention of somebody who disappeared at the beginning, I thought. I have it in my head.
Well, the crone lady tells Diem that her father disappeared.
Maybe that's who I'm
And
thinking
Diem's
of.
like, my mom told me my father's dead. And she's like, nah, he's alive.
Okay, maybe that's where I have it in my head, that her father's the one who disappeared, because it literally said it on page that her father's the one who disappeared.
And she's like, no, my father's dead. My mom told me my father's dead. She wouldn't lie about that.
Your mom's a liar.
So that's all I'm going to say on that.
You know what? I feel bad for Diem though, because everybody is lying to her. Everyone knows about what the mom is really up to. Henry obviously knows. Guardians obviously know. The dad obviously knows. Luther obviously knows. Someone be honest with her. And then all this time, for the first 20 years of her life, she's been just doing what everybody else wants her to be, right? Instead of being her own person. And the minute she sticks up for herself, then everyone has a problem, except for Luther.
And the minute she's
Luther's
like,
like,
I'm
"You
going to
go."
do what I want, she gets a crown. And now it's like, well,
oh,
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Now you're queen.
You've won the lottery.
What does that mean?
I don't think Luther's gonna be mad at her. Like, I don't think he's gonna
all
be
the green
upset
flags
that
for me.
he didn't get the crown, you know? Like, I have a feeling he's gonna get a crown.
Are they like twin flame souls of some kind? Because that's in the old religion lore too. Is like the Everflame souls lingering.
So the other thing that I was thinking is she is the Everflame. Like, it was reborn in her. And so now she is the Everflame.
That is also a theory I had.
Then I was also, because of the play on the word, like, for God in her name, I was thinking that maybe she was a god of old that has decided to come down in human form, kind of like Mala in Throne of Glass. And so that's why she's now flames, right? Because that's the goddesses. I don't know. We didn't hear very much about, like, the goddesses' powers or anything. So then that was the other thing. And that's why she's super powerful. And they're like, bitch, you probably the heir because you're powerful.
If she's the heir, then that means all these asshole guardians are her people fighting for her. And she's going to have to learn to navigate that bullshit, being drawn to Luther.
But she's the heir of Luther's kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
so the guardians are distinctly against her.
They're the guardians of the Everflame, and in the old religion.
Okay, so if she is the Everflame, then, but if she is the heir of the kingdom only, then she obviously is a descendant, or descended.
We just need to read the damn
book.
book.
So there's two different things there. Like, one could be that she is a mortal / god of the mortal religion, or she is a descended, which the Guardians are completely against. So one way the Guardians are on her side, and the other way they're distinctly against her.
Lots of options.
Or she's both, and she is what's going to bring peace to the world.
Okay, Tara, how quickly can we read the second book?
I'm reading it today and tomorrow, so we can record.
I'm in such a
tomorrow night.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to buy the audiobook and just fully immerse myself.
I think I might be able to share the audiobook with you. I think they allow
if
sharing.
you can,
I can try.
You can try. I've tried doing it to you and it hasn't worked, so
I don't know how, but I will see. I will Google this.
I'm in such a pickle because I want to read this book, and also Kyla's buddy reading Red Rising Dark Age with me, and he's like halfway through this 700-page book now, and it's like, you need to read this, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do? Do I read Glow of the Everflame, or do I read Dark Age?
I will warn both of you that finishing Glow is gonna cause you to immediately need to go out and get book 3.
I have book 3 already. I already bought it.
Do the new editions, like the physical copies for the subsequent books, also have bonus scenes, or is it just Spark?
I don't know. Book 2, this version of book 2 comes out December 3rd, which is also when Wind and Truth comes out. So
Can you share that extra copy or that extra
I
chapter
will
with
see
us?
if I can scan it and send it to you, Tara.
I will even take a picture. Like just take a picture. I haven't
read it. I don't know anything about it. I messaged Sandra because I was like, if you guys are gonna read it, then I'll read it. We can discuss it. But I didn't read it because 40 minutes before we all hopped on the phone call, Sandra was like, I didn't even know there was
I was like,
one.
la la la, don't tell me if there's.
So I just know that it's Luther's perspective.
So we might find out what he said from his perspective.
That's true.
Or what he was thinking from his perspective.
I'm so excited we're reading these together and can talk about it. This is so much fun. I love it. Okay, so that's the plan. All the listeners is we're just gonna go through, make this a little mini series with Tiara and books. Hopefully, release episodes quickly.
Okay, so every time you mention that, like David used to call me Tiara because he's weird.
I remember.
And so I'm like, wait, no, Sandra, you don't get to call me that. Like, don't start this trend again. Don't start this trend.
Wasn't your name like Tira?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
originally.
Tira. Yeah, He-Man and She-Ra, my brother got to like have an influence on my name.
That's cute.
And then my aunt changed the spelling of my name because she didn't like the 2 E's in it. So she changed it, and now it's a weird spelling of Tara.
I like it.
Any last thoughts on Spark of the Everflame?
No, I'm really glad that we decided to read this one, though.
I'm excited for you guys to read it. And I'm low-key hoping that Penn releases at least the date of the 4th one sometime in the next couple weeks. And then we can all be super excited about that, too.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely her time because she was on Instagram posting how Spark of the Everflame hit the New York Times bestselling list.
So this series, these 3 books were the books that pushed me to hit my 100 new books reading challenge of Goodreads. And Glow of the Everflame was one of the top 5 out of those 100 books for me for the entire year. So
dang.
Okay, you don't have to hype it anymore. We're there. We're hyped.
But I need to.
So, we are hyped.
Yeah.
I trust Jess's taste in books, especially like fantasy too. So much. That's high praise.
And thanks. Sandra, I just shared those, so you'll have to tell me if that worked.
Shared what?
The audio.
Oh, okay. I was like, my brain already moved on.
I looked at how to do it, and then I followed the directions, so hopefully that worked.
Jess, you've been on so many episodes of ours already, but where can people find you, and what are the other things that you do?
You can find me on another podcast. I have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast with my friend Dosh. You can find us at Jim's Canceled Pod.
What season are you on?
We are now on season 4 of Buffy and season 1 of Angel. So we're watching both shows at the same time. I'm so excited because Angel's my favorite show, probably of all time. So I'm so glad we're finally in Angel episodes. And then you can also find me on Bookstagram, on Instagram at tiaras.and.books. You can find my real-time reactions to this book in my highlights because I was very aggressive.
I love when you do that, though. It was everything in me not to just read at what your spoilers and thoughts were.
Well,
it's so fun, Tara.
I can look at them because I only did it for the first book. I didn't do it for the other 2. So,
but now you will, right? Like as you're rereading the second one.
No, I know what happened, so I can't put my guesses and things in there. But yeah,
I'll go back and give them a read. So everyone go and give Jessie a follow and see her spoilery thoughts on that, the first book. All right, ladies, we have some reading to do, Tara, you and I, and then we're going to reconnect with Jessie and talk about Glow of the Everflame by Penn, and then perhaps, reading schedule for the rest of the year. But until then, we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.